Ava eases the door open. Cold air slips in like a warning. The porch light buzzes, then dims toward grey. First snow whispers on the dry wind. She stands on the threshold, glove on the knob, backpack half-zipped. Wyoming looks unfinished. Fences, a drainage, a thin line of trees beyond the cul-de-sac. Across the driveway, fresh, heart-shaped tracks cross the concrete like punctuation. She follows them to the rail, peering through slats. An old bull moose holds still beside a birch. One shoulder bears a pale scar. His upper lip lifts. Incisors are gone. He leans in. Chest and neck press the white trunk. A slow rub, a rasping hush. Paper bark sloughs and curls. Underneath, sap gleams like glass. He lowers his mouth and licks with patience. Careful tongue. No tearing. Only the measured lap of need. Ava's breath fogs the rail. The moose turns. Amber eyes meet hers. Steady, unafraid, weighing. "Hey," she whispers, almost apology. "I see you." The wind rattles the porch chain. The light gives up. Not yet. She should turn back for school. She doesn't. She leaves the porch and follows the clean stamps across the cul-de-sac into the green belt, where a narrow trail edges a frozen drainage. The trailhead gate stands half open, a metal rectangle with a county map bolted to it. Snow sifts through the wire and fills the slots. She hesitates at the threshold, then slides through, glove on the bar, breath steady. Wind lifts a skin of powder along the ditch. A jay rasps and goes quiet. Her boot squeaks. She stops, listening. Hoof prints widen in the powder. She lowers a mitten beside one to measure, then studies the stride. Long, sure, with a faint drag at the right hind. On the fence corner, a few yellowed hairs snag on barbed wire and flutter. "Old," she murmurs, "big and tired on one leg." She angles downwind, letting the dry current carry her scent away from the trees. Aspen boles stand pale and straight. She uses them as cover. A soft rasp rises and falls ahead like someone sanding wood. Through the next screen of trunks, the old bull is there again, at a second birch. He presses shoulder and neck into the white trunk, holds, then shifts weight with slow intention. Paper bark loosens, a thin curl peels away. Beneath, the inner skin gleams, clear sap beads. He lowers his head and licks with careful strokes, tongue deliberate where teeth would be. A line from a field guide floats up. Winter browse tightens when wind stays dry. Ungulates conserve everything. Keep distance. Never interrupt feeding. Give space near cover. Distance is kindness. She backs a step until the wind is on her cheek again and crouches behind an aspen. The phone in her pocket is a weight she refuses to lift. The bull pauses, a flick at the ear, a pivot of the head. He looks toward the open strip where she kneels. Ava stills. "Easy," she says, barely breath. "I'm only watching." His ears settle. He returns to the trunk, chest rubbing once more, the hush of a sleeve across paper. Rub, peel, lick. She mouths the sequence and with a pencil from her coat, scratches 3 arrows into her notebook. She notes what she can see without moving closer. The trees that weep faster have smoother bark. The ones on the windward edge glisten sooner. The peeled panels shine like postage stamps, white rectangles. She writes, "West faces bead first," then underlines and draws a tiny box to mark the second tree. Past the birches, the trail kinks, and she follows at a respectful lag, letting trunks pass between them like slow-swung doors. The drag line grows clearer in deeper snow. The right hind scuffs a crescent at the end of long strides. She lifts a sentence meant only for the air. "You figured something out," she whispers. "I see the way you save." The The county sign at the gate had listed rules she half remembers, the ones made for hikers and secretly for her. Stay on trail, keep pets leashed, take only pictures, do not disturb wildlife. She adds one more at the margin of her page. Learn before you help. She caps the pencil and waits. Snow hisses along the crust, then stills. When the bull steps away from the second birch, the exposed panel catches a thin line of light and holds it like a mirror. He moves into darker timber and disappears. Ava waits until the trunks stop remembering his passing. Only then does she stand. She pulls out the phone, types, "You won't believe what I..." and stops. The draft blinks. She pockets the device and lifts the notebook again, choosing the page and the hush and the work of seeing over the noise. She slips along the fence where the planks end and the green belt swallows the cul-de-sac. Dawn turns to usable grey. She keeps downwind and low, using aspen boles as stepping stones between sightlines. The hush resolves into a sound, a faint rasp, a pause, another rasp, like a sleeve smoothing paper. The old bull stands by a trunk no wider than her waist. He plants his forefeet, sets his chest to the birch, and leans, patient, exact. She hears friction before she sees result. Outer bark lifts in a blister the size of a book page. He rubs again. "Rub," she whispers, writing without looking down. The blister parts on a seam. A paper-thin curl hinges outward. Beneath, the inner skin shows clean and pale. Sap wells in bright points along the tear like threaded beads. He lowers his mouth and laps. The tongue is careful, slow, angle precise, as if he's gathering light rather than liquid. Where incisors once stripped, he collects. "Peel," she tells the air, pencil moving. Tongue work turns beads into a narrow sheen. He pauses between strokes, breathes, then resumes. He licks the patch neat as if tidying a spill. "Lick," she adds, completing the arrows she began. Rub, peel, lick. Not a trick, she decides, a process. Friction starts the lift. Waiting lets cold sap loosen. Soft collection saves what's there. She sketches fast. Arrows, a box for the peeled panel, dots for sap. She notes, right hind drags slightly, conserve steps. He shifts his stance, steps left and repeats. The peel comes easier, near the first wound, the curl lifts with a dry sigh. The panel below shines like a small window. Beyond the drainage, movement. She counts 2 breaths. 2 cows ghost into view, grey on grey. Behind them, a lanky calf edges forward, legs too long, ears high. The trio stops. They hold the distance the trees grant. The bull does not look up. "Hey," Eva says to herself, low. "You're not alone." The cows wait in a sparse patch of willow. The calf lifts its nose as if the air has a flavor. The bull finishes a last precise lap and steps aside, leaving the peeled panel bright. He touches a second birch with his shoulder, just a test, and moves into darker cover. Eva breathes, then stays until the trunks quit remembering him. Only then does she inch forward, wind on her cheek, boots in her own prints. She keeps the line. At the worked tree, she stops at an offset angle, no closer than needed to read the surface. The peeled panel matches her notebook for size, curling outward like a turned page. The sap is thin, clear, a wet shine pooled in tiny stitches along the torn edge. She lifts her palm an inch from the surface. Cold breathes across her skin. The smell surprises her. Clean wood, wintergreen, faint sweetness. She sketches the panel at actual size, using the notebook's width as gauge. She marks the curl's direction and the spacing of beads. She notes bark thickness at the hinge, 2 millimeters, maybe less. She writes, smooth bark weeps faster, windward faces first, and underlines windward. A second birch shows older work, scored, calloused, paper layers, ragged where weather chewed. Sap there, beads slower. She compares trunk angles, drifted snow at the bases, exposure to the drainage mouth. "You figured something out," she tells the empty birch, meaning the bull. "I can learn the edges." A breeze slips through and turns the free corner of bark. The panel flutters once, a silent flag. When she looks up again, the cows remain near the willows, the calf tucked behind. It takes one step, then another, stops and looks toward the pale window where the bull worked. Its ears tilt forward. Ava does not name that attention. She keeps the order straight. Bull, panel, calf seeing. The cows drift deeper. The calf follows. Snow scratches the crust and goes quiet. She backs into aspen cover. Along the margin, she tests other birches with her eyes. Some are too thin to hold a panel. Some wear banded scars, good for sap only once. Some stand in a pocket where wind dies. Those have dull bark. She draws 3 thumbnails and labels them A, B, C. A, ideal. B, maybe. C, let be. At the fence line, she marks the worked trunk on her pocket map. The angled panel glints, then dulls as a cloud crosses the sun. She studies once more, a paper-thin curl lifted like a white ribbon. Clear sap threads the torn edge, catching the stray light that slips between clouds. "Okay," she breathes. "I see the steps." She closes the notebook, gloved thumb on the arrowed line, and steps back to the boundary. A deep engine note rises over the ridge. Snowplow. It swells, rolls away down the far side. The birches keep their stillness. The woods take sound and make it small. Quiet returns. Whole. Dusk gathers along the ridge as Eva returns with her mother's parka, a dented thermos, and the notebook that smells faintly of cinnamon. Dry wind combs powder into whispers that slide over the crust. She keeps to the path's right edge where old footprints set a shallow rail. At the trailhead kiosk, she stops. 2 posts, a roof, a county map under fogged plexiglass, a doorway with a rule. She chooses the bench. She taps the tin thermometer and waits for the shiver to still. 12 degrees, northwest breeze. She writes the numbers, then the word wind, and lets her breath thin. The corridor shows, even in failing light, a faint double stitch along the drainage where hooves passed at noon. Birches stand like white ribs on the far side. Snow drifts across heart-shaped prints, leaving soft dimples that remember weight. She uncaps the thermos. Heat ghosts her lip. "Boundary," she whispers. "Promise." She cranks the hand radio until the dynamo hums and turns the dial until the static loosens. A voice surfaces. Thin and dutiful. "North Fork Station, wind northwest 5 to 10, the line phrase. She lowers the volume to a murmur she can pocket and forget. 18:52, she writes the time, draws 2 arrows for wind, shades the lee sides of the nearest trunks. "Write what you can hold," she adds. "Don't guess." Movement reshapes the dark at the bend. The old bull arrives like a pressure change, shoulder first, then the deliberate set of 4 feet where ground is sure. He ghosts past the willows and steps into the thin clearing opposite the kiosk. Eva stays seated. She feels bench grain through her glove and lets that be enough. He chooses the windward birch, chest and neck to white, a slow, patient lean, a hush, a rasp, a pause. Paper bark loosens in a panel and hinges outward. He waits, then lowers his mouth and licks the bright seam. No tearing, a measured lap that gathers what friction made possible. Rub, peel, lick, she breathes, a cadence to steady herself. A cow drifts from the timber and stops broadside, keeping the interval the trees allow. Behind her, a lanky calf lingers in brush, ears forward, nose tipping to test the air. 1941, she writes it. The air needles her cheeks. She sketches 3 rectangles to mark the panels curling on birches 1 and 2 and notes hinge direction in a cramped hand. The radio mutters, "Anyone in the south drainage?" then dissolves. She whines twice and turns the volume down until the idea of sound remains. Her toes tingle, then settle. She drinks and cinnamon laces the steam. The bull works the second birch. He leans with the calm of craft. Bark loosens, sighs. He waits, he licks. The rhythm is a clock no one built. "Hold," she whispers. "Hold." Headlamps swim along the far county road, flicker sodium orange through the branches, and pass. She writes, "Headlamps 2006. A gust rattles the plexiglass. She smooths the curled notice and ties a scrap of survey tape to the bench arm at calf shoulder height, a bright indicator for her patience. The ribbon barely moves, the wind steadies. She draws 2 sight lines from willows to birches and writes, "No bait, no feed, only seeing." 2103, the numbers look heavy in the dim. She writes them anyway and flexes her fingers until the sting leaves. The bull adjusts the corridor by a yard and places himself between her and the herd path. He faces her, head high, breath a pale flag. The bench shrinks. Her ribs forget their work. "Okay," she says, "I'll keep the line." They hold each other's presence for a count that ignores numbers. The birches creak once. He exhales and turns, resetting to a 3rd tree. Distance lives again between them. She writes, "Stood between, distance set," then closes the notebook to let her pulse find a smaller drum. Night resolves into measures, rasp, pause, rasp, pause. The calf inches from brush, stops, lifts its head toward the nearest peeled brightness, and retreats. A cow tests the open edge, 2 forward, 1 sideways, ears forward, breathing ropes. She cranks the radio once more. "Snow Machine Club meeting cancelled for..." The sentence shreds. She turns the knob left until silence is larger than anything. "We're good without it," she tells the bench. Her toes ache. She presses them against the boot's inner shank and imagines warmth travelling from earth to soul to skin. She thinks of the classroom she will meet tomorrow, the seating chart she hasn't learned, the way a new place makes names slide. "You have homework," she says, and smiles because the woods do not care. 22 to 12, she stars it. The bull completes another panel, steps aside, breath opening and closing in a steady engine of white. The calf steps into the lane and stretches toward the fresh tear. The tongue touches, skitters on the cold slick, withdraws. The calf turns its head, waits. The urge to speak rises and falls. "You'll get it," she whispers. "I see you trying." She writes, "First attempt, slip," and draws a small circle that isn't judgment, only memory. Time becomes simple. The bull works a 4th tree and rests with head up. A cow lowers her head and lifts it again. The calf moves to the panel made 2 hours before, hesitates, sets the tongue again. Slow, angle truer. The line of sap thins under the deliberate sweep. "Yes," Eva says into her scarf. "Yes," she notes. Second attempt, hold, slow. Snow skates in faint veils. The bench clicks as it shrinks. She twists the thermos lid and coaxes 2 last mouthfuls of heat. 2308, she writes it. Headlamps cross and fade. "People," she says, acknowledging the other world moving parallel. The night keeps exact small sounds, twig settle, birch whisper, tongue lap. Cold climbs her sleeves. She pushes her hands deeper. She opens to a clean page and draws the corridor as it feels, a lane of unbothered air, edges kept by trees, a ribbon measured by how nothing startles. She writes, "Distance builds trust," crosses out trust, writes, "smaller." Space. The radio releases 5 clear seconds, North Ravine clear, temps holding, no events. She clicks it off. Silence deserves the larger share. Midnight arrives without ceremony. The bull lifts his head at the clearing's edge. The cows settle their weight. The calf stands between two trunks that take wind and let it slide by. Eva feels the proof of a bench under her legs and the good ache that only staying can teach. "Almost," she tells the night. "You're almost through it." The bull steps forward and, for a breath, fills the lane between her and the herd path again. He pauses just long enough for the same gentle law to reassert. She nods. "I know," she says. "I won't cross." He turns. Frost along his shoulder catches a grain of star. He leans, rubs, waits, licks. The panel brightens and dulls as thin clouds pass. She writes, panels 4 and 5 complete, and makes small rectangles along a sketched string of trunks. The calf steps to the newest panel. Mouth opens just enough, tongue to gleam. The sweep holds and clears a line, only a small motion doing its job. Her phone buzzes. She does not check it. She considers the kitchen light at home, the pause her mother might take at the window, the habit of measuring dark like measuring a fever with the back of a hand. "I'm okay," she says. "I'm here." She closes the notebook and lets the next measure pass unwritten. Rasp. Pause. Rasp. Pause. A single dog barks far off, then quits. The sky thins a degree. Not morning, only proof it exists somewhere, walking nearer. "Almost," she repeats, and the word fits. She opens the notebook for one last entry and underlines what she wrote. "Write what you can hold. Don't guess. Keep the line." When she stands, it is only to send blood back into feet and then sit again. Across the clearing, the peeled panels hold different shades of night, each a quiet ledger line of time and saved effort. Wind softens, motion pauses. The calf leans to an older panel, finds the precise seam of shine, and lifts what remains with care. A tiny, papery crackle travels through the hush and feels for a moment like the sound of dawn beginning. Morning thins the dark. The old bull stands with frost on his shoulder. The newest birch shines at the hinge. The calf edges forward until brush no longer touches its flanks. Eva lifts her notebook and writes 0547. The calf takes one more step. "Easy," she whispers. "You've got room." The calf sets its chest to the birch the bulwark last. Hide rasps. A blister rises, holds. It squares, leans again. The blister parts. A paper lip opens, pale inside showing. The calf lowers its mouth and tries to lick. The tongue slides over the cold shine and finds no purchase. "Try again," Eva breathes. It does. The tongue settles at the seam and travels in a slow line. The shine thins under the sweep. When the calf lifts its head, whiskers bead with frost, it glances toward the cows, then back to the panel, and repeats, steadier. Eva writes, "First true lap, 0549, she adds. "Second lap, smoother." The old bull stands one trunk away, head high. He shifts a forefoot, gives a brief ear flick that reads to human eyes like permission. He steps to another birch and leans. "Rub, peel, lick," Eva says, the words a small prayer. The calf works a second seam, then a third. The cows drift in a shallow arc to keep space. Eva writes, "Spreading." The bull lowers and lifts his head in one measured arc. It lands like a nod. She does not move. "I see it," she says. "I keep the line." Pallor grows at the horizon. Eva backs to the trailhead sign and dials the ranger number posted there. "Ranger," a voice answers. "Hi, I'm Eva at the Winterfold Greenbelt. An old bull is feeding by rubbing, peeling, then licking. A calf is copying. I'm at the sign. I'm not close." "Stay at the sign. I'm Nora. Don't approach or let anyone approach. I'll come look. No tranquilizers, no disturbance." "Copy," Eva says. She writes, called Nora at first light. The calf works one more panel, then stands between the cows. By mid-morning, the day is clear and hard. Nora's truck settles in the lot and quiets. She stops at the sign and nods. "You called right," she says. "We keep our distance." Eva points down the corridor. "Panels on 5 birches. The calf made 2. "Early snow after dry wind can pinch brows," Nora says. "Animals try things. Sometimes a new trick sticks." "It's working," Eva says. "I wrote the times. We'll do this simple." Nora tears flagging strips. They mark map points, worked trees, safer approaches. A blind snag circled with a small X. "No close work today," she adds, "but we can make the corridor read cleaner, for them and for people." They walk the human path only. Where a fallen limb forces a jog, Nora watches the herd, then trims the deadwood flush with a folding saw. The cut is neat and brief, Eva notes. Deadfall cleared, roots smoother. At the next bend, Nora wraps a thin sapling with coarse burlap. "Sacrificial," she says. "Guide bites here, not on the weak ones. Let sturdier birch take touch." "Signage?" Eva asks. "Today," Nora says. "Plain language. Do not approach feeding wildlife. Leash dogs." "Give the corridor." They pin 2 places where the human trail crosses the animal's line and agree to post a second notice at the side path. Nora adds an after-hours number beneath the printed ones in blue ink. "Any closer, and we help our fear more than their hunger," Nora says. Watching from the sign set the rule. "I can stay on the bench. Keep notes," Eva says. "That's more than enough," Nora answers. "It's the work." They return the way they came, stepping in their own prints. The herd has eased deeper into timber. Panels on the nearest birches glint like small windows, stitched into white. Eva whispers, "Thank you for showing me." To Nora, she says, "If people see this, maybe they'll walk wider." "They will if the corridor reads clean," Nora answers. She prints 2 lines for the sign, then adds a third. "Learn before you help." Eva nods. "I can tell the bus stop where to walk." "Good," Nora says. "Good is enough." Near noon, the only visible change is how unremarkable the place looks. The limb is gone, the sapling wears burlap, signs match the kiosk, tracks lean into the same lane. Eva closes her notebook. The old bull appears at the timber's edge, pauses, and lowers, then lifts his head in that single measured arc. "I see you," she says. They leave the clearing as they found it, except the way through reads easier to eyes that need ease. Eva looks at a peeled panel where light threads the torn edge. It gleams, then softens. The corridor keeps its quiet, and with it, the lesson that conditions can be shaped without taking anything that belongs to the wild. At the sign, Nora tapes the notice and caps pen. "We're done for now," she says. "Call if anything changes." "I will." Eva lingers one breath at the kiosk threshold, then steps across the lot. Behind her, the woods fold their sounds and hold. She breathes once, then goes. She has the sequence in her pocket and the shape of a path that asks nothing loud from anyone. "Rub, peel, lick," she says, a promise to keep the line. Dusk lays a pewter skin over the drainage when Eva returns to the kiosk. The sign's corners have frozen flat. Her tape line, "Leash dogs give the corridor," holds. She stays on the bench watching the lane. Snow is a sift more than a fall. The herd arrives almost without sound. A cow eases through willows, then another. The old bull keeps to shadow beyond the birches, shoulder frosting and clearing. Between them, the calf steps into open ground with new steadiness. It doesn't stall at the first trunk. Chest to white, a confident lean. Bark lifts in a pale blister and hinges away, thin as a shaving. Eva exhales, slow. You remember? She says. The calf lowers its mouth and the tongue settles to the bright seam. The sweep is careful. A line of sap beads and shrinks. The second pass is truer, less wobble in the legs. It pauses, reads the panel the way a hand reads grain, and licks once more until the shine is neat. A cow edges forward as if the calf's work made room. She touches the exposed panel with the flat of her muzzle, flinches at the cold slick, then leans, then finds a slower pace that holds. Eva notes the change in how the cow sets her hind feet. Shorter side steps, fewer slips. The tracks lay parallel now, not the zigzag she mapped last night. She writes nothing. She keeps the notes in her head. Calf first, cow joins, old bull waiting long, then choosing a new tree. He moves with the thrift of craft, saving turns, placing each foot where packed snow remembers him. When he leans, the peel lifts. When he licks, it is the work of a moment, exact and finished. I won't come closer, Eva promises. You set the distance. Evening folds along the trunks, out here. The lane reads cleaner than morning. Where a snag forced a detour, the new cut lets the herd pass straight and quiet. Birch after birch shows narrow windows where panels curled earlier. Under each, a glaze like glass. Eva watches the calf choose not the newest tier, but the one easiest to reach, the angle that wastes the least. That choice saves steps for the cow behind it, and that saving holds for the next. Good, she says. Good is enough. A breeze slips from the notch and combs frost from the bull's shoulder. He takes a different trunk, one she marked B, and makes it work. The peel is slower but clean. He leaves it, and the calf, as if reading his pause, does not claim it. It takes the panel where the sap sits shallow and clear. Eva keeps to the bench. The distance is a promise she has learned to carry. Her phone stays dark, the thermos at her feet sighs as it cools. Beyond the lane, evening collects in older pockets. She thinks of math tests and a roll call of new names and how attention strengthens by holding. Let it be quiet, she says. Let it stay theirs. The last light rinses through the birches. On the nearest trunk, a panel frees at the lower hinge and opens all the way out, a square the size of her notebook. It looks like a sheet of paper raised to show what it knows. Clear sap threads the torn edge. A thin bead catches the light and burns, white, then silver, then nothing when the sun drops. She does not applaud. The herd moves through, calf first, then the cautious cow, then the old bull with his exacting patience. Their tracks lie true and even. The corridor holds its grammar. Leave room, waste less, keep moving. Thank you, Eva says to the birches, to the way small invention travels, to the distance that makes trust possible. Dusk deepens. In the quiet, Eva sees how the place has changed by barely changing at all. A path exists where trouble would have been. A sheet of bark turns and shines in the wind's small hand, and the woods keep their stillness like a vow. Morning arrives without fanfare, only a softer wind and a steadier light. Eva opens the door and pauses at the threshold. The porch smells of cold metal and cinnamon from yesterday's thermos. Fresh snow has crusted, but the tracks do not enter the yard. They pass along the corridor she has learned to see and leave undisturbed. Across the drainage, the old bull stands with 1 forefoot ahead. Frost glints along his shoulder. He turns his head, and she catches a slow blink. Not hunger, not ask, simply acknowledgement between two lives holding distance. Thank you, she whispers. The word feels right, because it is small. She raises her notebook. The page with the arrows has smudged. She smooths it flat and traces the faded line. Rub, peel, lick. The letters are plain. The movement is what matters. I will keep the line, she says, and knows it is a promise to herself as much as to the woods. Her mother's footsteps cross the kitchen behind her, then stop. "Everything all right?" "It is," Eva answers. "They found a way." She leaves the door a crack as she steps inside for a pencil and tape. The open line is not an invitation, only a reminder that some thresholds should remain thresholds. She tears a strip and writes in block letters for the kiosk, "Learn before you help." On the porch, she breathes the cold air once more, then closes the notebook and pockets the tape. When she looks again, the herd is moving. The calf leads through the lane without hurry. A cow follows, sure in her steps. The old bull brings up the rear with his tidy economy, turning only when he needs to turn. They do not look toward the house. They do not need to. "Go on," Eva says. "Good is enough." Along the birches, a peeled panel catches morning. It hangs like a white page turned partway, clear sap threading the torn edge until light gathers and lets go. No applause, no lessons spelled out. Only a small invention continuing quietly, and a girl who learned how to watch without taking. The woods keep their silence. The corridor holds. Eva rests her hand on the door jamb and feels the grain, a simple proof. She steps inside with the hush still on her like a coat, grateful for it, grateful to leave it undisturbed, for now, gently. If this story touched your heart, stay close. Here on Paw Prints and Stories, we believe some bonds never end. Subscribe for more quiet miracles, where compassion meets responsibility, and where the wild teaches us how to listen.